Well, thanks for joining us today. We have a great episode. We are starting a series on the top trending issues, concerns of real estate professionals in 2026. We're going to drill down into production ceiling, self-sabotaging, what is imposter syndrome, how to address that, the whole the hustle culture, hustle identity, along with fixed versus growth mindset with Dr. Hall. We're going to cover all of these topics at a 30,000 foot view today, and then over time. Have follow-on episodes drilling into each topic in a little bit more detail. So with that, we'll bring Dr. Hall in. How are you doing today, Dr. Hall?
I'm doing quite well. Thanks for asking. Glad to
Yeah,
be
good.
here.
Good. Yeah, we're glad to have you. Dr. Hall, for those of you that don't know, is a business psychologist. He's an executive coach. He's a multi-time author and a public speaker. And as I typically say, one of my favorite aspects of Dr. Hall is the neuro nerd side of him and how it is that we apply on a day-to-day basis in practical application the things that we talk about, not just kind of high level, what we think might be happening, what we theorize should happen, but how it actually works in our brain and how to apply them. So today's kind of interesting because we're just going to cover things at a high level for five different topics, but these seem to be the ones that are holding agents back as far as what people are asking about, what issues they're expressing. So hopefully this kind of sets the stage for what we're going to cover. And at the end of this series, we'll have knocked down the top five, you know, issues and concerns as it relates to the mindset of real estate agents. I know you got a chance to look over the list when we began, and you were like, "Ooh, these are great." So I'm excited.
Yeah. I think maybe one of the things we should say at the outset is that even though you've done a great job making them discrete mindset errors, um, there's a lot of overlap. Some of it's, we'll talk about them as separate mindset errors where someone needs a mindset makeover. But if a person has one, they probably have two, they maybe have three, or maybe they've got all five. But we'll talk about them separately. But until a person really looks at themselves, they may not know which, if any, or all of these affect them.
So maybe initially starting with the monitor, you don't manage what you don't monitor, and that's your mindset, your thinking.
Right.
Start with that, so that as they're going through these, they can kind of reflect back and go, "Oh yeah, I am struggling. I could see me struggling with, or what have you, this issue."
Yes.
Excellent.
So I think the way you've delineated them will help people be able to look at their own pattern and the mindset error that they particularly make.
Excellent, excellent. Well, let's do a couple of small housekeeping items and get into the meat of the topic. For those of you that I haven't met, my name is Jared Lee. I'm the associate broker and team lead here at My Home Connection, also known as MHC Realty. Our sponsor for today is the Perfect Real Estate Business. We're simply looking to reinvent real estate. No small undertaking there, but the way we're going to go about it is the psychology of real estate success. Everything kind of starts in the mind and goes from there. We obviously have to provide as a team the typical tools, skills of for successful agents, but also bringing in business coaching, life coaching, mentoring, and training. And we'd love to have a conversation around how it is that we could potentially help you. So feel free to take us up on our no obligation consultation, and we'd love to see how we can help. So with that, let's do that very thing, Dr. Hall. Is um, tell us. We've had episodes on this before, so just kind of real briefly, how it is that the listeners, the watchers, can best look inside internally and ascertain as to whether or not these issues may apply and to what degree.
Well, I think one of the things that you've done, the first thing that people have to be able to do is to be able to identify, oh yeah, I do that, and that comes from naming it. And so, for example, uh, until somebody describes to you a physical sensation like butterflies in your stomach, you may not know that's a thing
Mm,
that's
hmm.
different than your everyday experience. So as soon as somebody says it's like butterflies in your stomach, it feels like there's, it feels a little tickly, like as if you had butterflies in your stomach. And you go, oh, I know that. And so then as soon as you identify it, then people can say, oh yeah, I know that experience. And so that's what we'll be doing today on a real high level of what each of these things are.
Excellent. No, I love that. Yeah. How would you even begin to entertain it as an issue or as a problem that needs a solution if you can't put a name to it
Right.
and kind of begin to walk through it? So, as I mentioned, we'll go through each in fairly high detail and then get into specifics on future episodes. But I think the production ceiling is something that's been talked about for a long time, but I don't know that I've had somebody really articulate what happens in the mind um, that creates these limiting beliefs, these self-imposed ceilings. Why is it that the brain um, wouldn't naturally want to, I don't know how to word it, clear past a certain state of success or, um, yeah, I guess just,
Well, some of it, and we'll go into greater detail in a future episode. But let's use holding your breath. And I'm not sure if you and I have talked about this or not. So Jared, how long can you hold your breath?
oh, I don't know, minute, minute and a half, maybe.
Maybe, yeah. Do you think it's possible with some training and practice you could hold your breath for 5 minutes?
Probably lots of training, maybe.
Okay, maybe, and the answer is, if you've got the right equipment, which is healthy lungs, yeah, you can.
Hmm.
But it requires training and practice. But what happens to most people is when they hold their breath, they're underwater, they're looking at their watch thinking, okay, can I hold out for another 15 seconds? They don't think, okay, I could probably double this. And so they set a mindset limit on the amount of time they can hold their breath, and they don't think it's even possible to hold your breath for 5 minutes. Like,
Mm,
oh, I'll pass out. Well, without practice, you probably will pass out. But there are pearl divers. Are you familiar with this?
mm.
These are people who they free dive down to very deep levels to pick up pearls out of oysters. And there's a sport called free diving where you regulate your breath, and you regulate your internal pressure, so that you can hold your breath and go down hundreds of feet. I mean, I'm lucky to get down 10 feet,
Right.
but you start to meet people who have broken those barriers. The most important piece of that is to see an example of somebody who could do that, and
Mm.
then learn how to do that. But until then, you just got set in your mind, well, I can't do that. That's not even physically possible.
Kind of like fasting. I think some people, I'm starving, because they missed a meal. And and you hear stories of people, weeks, months of water fasting. And you go,
That,
oh, that's a possibility.
that there was a man who was morbidly obese, over 400 pounds, and with with hydration and with electrolytes and vitamins, he fasted for over a year.
Wow.
I mean, ate nothing. And
Right.
essentially, his physician said, "You've pre-eaten for a year, so we're gonna."
You got it all stored up.
Yeah, so you don't have to eat for a year, and he didn't. And now, like in my mind, that was like, that's crazy. How's that even possible? Well, if you've got enough reserve, then it is possible. I don't have enough reserve, but he did.
Mhm.
So if you don't think it's possible, it goes back to the, if you think you can or you think you can't, you're right.
You're right. Yeah, interesting. Can you think it's possible not seeing direct evidence or immediate evidence? Like, obviously, you can. see it on TV, you see somebody that's super successful, and you perceive that it can by a screen, but you don't know that person. Um, is it just as possible to see that success in somebody that's that distance from you, or does it become more powerful the closer they are?
It does become more powerful the closer they are. That we tend to model ourselves on the people in our immediate environment, and then beyond that, to other people we can identify with in a larger environment. But if I was to compare myself to someone from, I don't know, Mongolia, I would go, oh, we're just probably too different. I
Mm,
probably could never do that. You have to probably have grown up in Mongolia in order to be able to do whatever they're doing.
yeah.
Um, but if I look at my neighbor and they're doing it, I think, well, I can probably do that. So it really is the closer the model is, and the more similar the model is to you, the more
Mm,
likely you think you can achieve it. You know,
is
so
that
so let's look at basketball. If if
okay?
if I'm on a basketball court, I'm 5 feet 10 inches tall. I am thoroughly average in height. I mean, that 5'10" for an adult male in the United States is dead on average, and I'm in there with you know someone who plays center for the NBA, and we were to say, do you think you can dunk a basketball? He's going to say, yeah, and I'm going to say I might be able to get close to the bottom of the net. Um, uh, so I won't identify with him. But if you look at another guy, um, historically there was a this is a long time ago, a guy named Spud Webb who was 5 feet 8 inches tall and could slam, and so I think, okay, it's certainly possible for somebody my height to be able to do that. Whether I could do it or not, I'd be more likely to attempt it if I was more the same height. If do you see,
Yeah,
Spud Webb
makes
and I
sense.
are roughly the same height.
Yeah, yeah. Is this? We won't spend a ton more time on this, but is this kind of a good example? Is the first person to run the 4 minute mile, and then all of a sudden everybody's doing it because it can be done.
That that is the quintessential best example. Roger Bannister ran it in 4 minutes. It was considered to be physically impossible, unhealthy, and likely to cause death. And
It was done.
after he ran it, I think within the next month or two or three other people ran it. They get no credit, right? They
Right,
get,
right,
um,
right.
but it happened, and now regularly we see young men in high school running 4 minute miles,
Wow.
which is absolutely crazy talk at the time. So it really was a perceptual change, a shift in what people believed was possible.
Well, that's evidenced by the fact that this was just a couple months after. It's not like these people went on some brand new training regimen and did
Right.
all these off the wall things or got new technology in their shoes or anything. It was just simply a mindset shift.
It was simply mindset. Yes.
Wow. Interesting. Interesting. Well, I think that sets a really good stage for topic number one. This idea of self-sabotaging, I find interesting. Um, at first glance, I think a lot of people would be disinclined to believe that exists because why would you do that? Um, but I'd love for you to speak to the many number of ways why people would do that.
Well, I mean, it's related to the first one, which is you have a mindset about um, how much success you either deserve to have
Mm,
or the amount of success you can handle, and and both of which play into self sabotage. But if people have all of all of all of the other gifts or skills, all the other habits in place, they can do things that prevent them from achieving certain goals of theirs because they don't feel like they deserve it. They don't think like if they have it, it'll be good for them. Some people really believe that if I have too much money, too much success, whatever it is, I'll destroy myself. So
mm,
I before I get there, I won't. I'll do something to stop myself. Another thing is, I don't think the people that I'm around will approve. This is another reason to
mm,
self-sabotage. My family will suspect me. My loved ones. will think I've become arrogant. Um, and the final is I just don't think I deserve it. I'm not worthy of this kind of success because I've got XYZ problem. And people will come up with very ingenious, subtle ways that they don't achieve success when it's easily in their grasp.
And is this is a subconscious process? And
Some of it is a subconscious process, and some of it gets to the conscious level. And when we talk about subconscious, let's make sure we don't get people thinking we're talking about some sort of Freudian
right,
unconscious experience, because I'm not a huge, in fact, I'm not a fan of Freud, and I think his concept of unconscious and the way it was defined is very, very confusing and misleading for most people. Most of what we do in life, from brushing our teeth to walking down the street with the dog to looking left before right, or right, left, right, before we cross the street, those things are out of our conscious awareness, but we do them out of habit. And the same is true that we have many, many habits of thought that we've done so much, they just don't rise to the level of awareness. So
like cruise control. It's just
we well, yeah, and we have to be on cruise control to survive for many parts of our life. Otherwise, our brains would be exhausted thinking about every decision. But if you're on cruise control, and you don't bring those thoughts to your conscious awareness, they can be limiting, and you can do things to maintain homeostasis.
hmm.
Because if you achieve a level of success, it requires a lot more responsibility, and some people just don't want to put the work in,
Mm,
or so they don't,
hmm.
or they're intimidated. They don't think they can handle it.
Yeah. So these two are kind of coming together from the I don't know. Uh, and unless I figure out what I don't know and get answers to that, I'm kind of stalled out because I'm on cruise control, generally speaking, and I don't want to be in a position where it could be dangerous, or I realize that I don't deserve it, or whatever. Like you're not
Right.
you're not actively thinking through these things. And I guess the reason I'm bringing that up is because you need somebody to bring it to light, to create the awareness you were talking about. That hey, I've been watching you for a little bit, and I kind of got an inclination that you're not uh, you're not achieving your success because you're not entertaining these shortcomings. Or
Yes, and well, we all have blind spots, and by definition, you can't see your own blind spot. You have to have somebody else point it out to you, and until someone else comes alongside and points out a blind spot of yours, and your willingness to accept that it exists,
hmm.
um, most most people, if they're not willing to accept that they have a blind spot, that there's some imperfection in the way they're doing things, then they'll continue on with that blind spot.
Yeah, and most aren't too interested in looking at themselves from a negative perspective. I mean, most people want a little bit of defense, right? So that yeah,
But yeah,
I don't
sure.
know. Yeah,
Yep,
it
because
takes a
it's
strong person
embarrassing.
to hear that, right? Yeah.
Yeah, it's embarrassing. The thing about a blind spot is it's a little like being in the eighth grade and somebody put a kick me sticker or I'm stupid thing on your back, and it's been there since the morning and nobody told you about it. Well, at the end of the day, somebody finally tells you. Your first response is um, your first response is um, embarrassment, then anger, and if you get to it, some level of gratitude that somebody told you, but
Hmm.
then more anger about like who put it there, and then more anger about why didn't anybody tell me before.
Yeah.
So you've got this mix of negative emotions, so it's pretty hard, and human beings don't like to be embarrassed.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we avoid getting that feedback because it makes us feel bad.
We don't like vulnerability. That I feel vulnerable when I look inward and see a weakness.
Or when somebody observes a weakness in me.
Mm. Ooh. Yeah. Then you got a
I mean,
weakness
that's
on
that's the blind
embarrassment on
spot,
top of
right?
weakness.
Yeah, yeah. So, oh, this is a bad thing, and I never noticed it, but everybody else did. Oh, that's
Mm.
humiliating.
My take would be you're going to have the blind spot because you've grown to have this blind spot. And if you're not open to seeing them, guess what you get to do forever?
Well,
Carry.
that's your approach because you have, and we'll get to this. You have a growth mindset, and we'll get to that last. But not everybody has that mindset, and not everybody's willing to be embarrassed in the short run for longer term improvement.
Yeah.
Um, yeah,
Interesting. No, that's a lot to think about. We'll delve deeper into it
yeah,
in that episode for sure. But let's talk about this imposter syndrome. This has been around for
yep.
quite some time as well. But now the age of social media has just, I don't know, put it on steroids or hyper amplified it. And I guess I'm curious as to the psychology around the people that leverage to the hilt the imposter syndrome, and then the ones that feel the imposter syndrome. And I guess the latter is probably the more common. No.
Yeah, I guess we're not talking about the narcissists who post everything and they fake every success that they have. That there's a level of grift in that's the opposite of the imposter phenomena. Um, these people are lying to others and lying to themselves. They are imposters and they know it. The imposter phenomena is almost the opposite, which is when you look at somebody who's moderately successful, they go into another group of other moderately successful people and they look around and they say, boy, it looks like everybody here like belongs and everybody probably is, they seem competent and they seem put together. Yeah, everybody probably belongs here but me.
Mm,
So I'm
ouch.
the phony, and eventually, all of these competent people are going to find out what a phony I am. And so it's this level of insecurity that you carry around. And frankly, one statistic I've read is that 85% of moderately successful people believe they're phonies.
I was going to ask what the percentage is, but that's
Yeah,
high. Wow.
yeah, and there's been some writing suggesting that it's higher in women than men, and I'm not sure that's true. I think it presents differently. I think there are certainly many women who do feel like phonies. I think there. I think men and women both struggle with this, but it presents in different ways.
Hmm. So narcissists aside, because they don't look at themselves with imperfections. My understanding is they really can't because it's uncomfortable
Well,
or.
Well, they probably can, but they're spending so much time lying to themselves about how wonderful they are, and then they act like it, and it's the standard. It's not the standard. It's the malignant form of fake it till you make it. There's
Mm,
a healthy form of fake it till you make it, but there's a malignant form where you're just faking it, and you hope someday, you know, you will make it because you faked it long enough. The healthy fake it till you make it is keep trying until you become competent. The malignant form of fake it till you make it is you just fake it until somebody pays you money and then you're out.
so this will probably go into the deep dive for this one. So I don't know if I should spend a ton of time on it, but I'm curious about the narcissist that have a propensity to fake it till you make it because that's kind of what they're driven to do. And then you've got the people that aren't narcissists, but 85% of this successful
Moderately
population,
successful. Yeah.
moderately, thank you,
Yeah.
are questioning if they are because they're seeing the flaws in themselves and going, I don't know if these people have all these flaws because they're wearing the right clothes, they got the right hairstyle, they
Yep.
showed up with the car that fits the part. Now you're seeing, I did I did something this morning, or I didn't do something this morning that isn't in line with my my ideal idea of being a successful person. I guess I'm not quite sure the question there, other than
Yeah. I was waiting for the question part.
Yeah, well, I don't know what the percentage of narcissists versus the people that have this imposter syndrome, but for them, I just want to encourage them that they're looking at these other people and they have all the same flaws, right?
Yes, yes,
Or
and
not
that's
same, but similar.
that's the thing about social media is that it's everybody's highlight reel. No, nobody puts their whole life on social media. It's the highlight reel. It's the best of, and so they're wittier, they're better looking, they go to cooler places, they do cooler things because it's the highlight reel. So when you're going to the grocery store, you're not like, oh, look at me, I'm at the grocery store. Oh, look at there's avocados. I mean, and you go, oh man, I forgot my coupons. Nobody says that. Okay, so it's always in some exotic locale or some faked exotic locale with people looking as best as they can, and or as best as the filters will make them look. And so there's all of this comparison, this belief that I must not be as good as those other people.
Well, I'm glad you went there because in today's social media culture, you now have not only evidence, but persistent, consistent evidence of somebody's highlight reels. And the tendency can be, oh, what am I not doing to accomplish those things? And thinking they must be doing all the right things. And really, they're not. They're just kind of snapping the highlights, like you said.
Yeah, I'm going to use a maybe a very public example, but if you watch the last 50 years of Saturday Night Live, there are some really awful episodes. I mean, just awful. I mean, just failure
uh,
after failure of sketch after sketch. But if you look at the highlight reel, every year was hilarious.
right.
And so what people do is they remember the supremely bad and the supremely good, and they don't remember the muddy middle. And most of our lives are in the muddy middle.
Yeah. I was trying to get to hustle
Yeah.
identity, but I like the fact that, the idea, the concept of being consistent and being disciplined, like a baseball hitter, you know, they're a failure the majority of the time. But when they
The best hitters hit about 300,
if
which
yeah,
means
it's
that
the
7 out
best.
of 10 times they strike out.
Yeah,
Yes.
but you hit that grand slam, you hit that home run, you hit that really cool triple, whatever, and it washes away a lot of the strikeouts, a lot of the ground outs, all
I,
that.
Nobody's watching that on Sports Center. Nobody's watching every time you whiff at the ball. I mean,
Right.
nobody cares.
Yeah, yeah. Anyway, I hope that's helpful. So, wanted to dig into that just a little bit, but let's talk about this uh, hustle identity or hustle
Hmm.
culture, because in today's world, we're pulled in the real estate profession so many different ways, and I'm sure they are in other fields as well. But
So
obviously,
many other fields. Yeah.
yeah, but uh, we get called personally all the time because our phone numbers are public, our emails are available, and everybody wants to sell us something new. So we're always getting the pitch. I imagine there's other similar career fields that get pitched that much, but I don't know about many because we are so accessible, and everybody's trying to sell us some new way of generating a ton of business and making all this money. And
Hmm.
we can bob and weave all over the place. So what I wanted to kind of chat with is numbing yourself or becoming a little what's the word you used the other day? Uh, I'll think of it here in a minute, but not falling victim to the hustle identity. Not immune,
Yes.
but you know.
Inoculated.
Thank you, thank you.
Thank
Yes,
you.
thank you. That helps. I don't know why I couldn't pull it out of my head, but anyway.
So I would say the whole hustle culture is we're going to just grind. We're grinding. We're grinding. 24/7, 365. We're on it. And it's this hyped up sort of pep rally that I can sustain this level of energy and activity constantly. That's just a lie. Now, it's important to make the distinction that initiative, drive, having some hustle is an important part of anyone's success. If you don't have that, nobody makes it, nobody becomes very successful on talent alone. You get to a certain point, but then you got to couple that with initiative or drive. Um, the problem with hustle culture is it suggests a sustained level of activity that no one, and I do mean no one, could sustain. I mean, and so then people will always, well, what about David Goggins? Okay, so David Goggins,
He's
you
the
know,
exception.
I, he may be one in a billion, right? And do you really want to set yourself up to think I can be like David Goggins? Should you look to David Goggins for drive and initiative? Yes. If you don't succeed at the David Goggins levels, don't punish yourself, because he really is he really is an outlier. He's a supremely unique character. And when I say that, maybe that's not true, because I said one in a billion. So there's probably 7 others like him on the planet. Because there are 8 billion people
Yep.
on the planet. It's just math. So he's not really unique. If I said he's one in a 9 billion person, then we could say he's unique. But he's certainly unusual. So don't anybody think that you have to get David Goggins levels of drive or hustle. But he can be a great example of something to strive toward.
Yeah, I guess I'm thinking of two different things. Well, not the same thing, but two different ways to go about it. The hustle culture is can be, I'm going to do this and then I'm going to do that and then I'm going to do the other thing. So you're talking about a lot of activity and you're just really grinding. But I'm
Mm-hmm.
also talking about being distracted. Hustle to here and then hustle to there, and oh, look at that person's
Oh,
doing 10 things at one time, and it's like, yeah,
yeah,
but
we're
none are
we're always
not doing
hurrying. We're always so busy, so busy. I'm just pushing, pushing, pushing. Yeah,
right.
no one is able, with their, with the size of our brains, no one is able to do that consistently, because our brains, much like our bodies, run out of fuel.
Do you think they're two different things and should be decoupled, or could we have them in the same episode about the grind and then the distraction, or for lack of a better
I
word?
think we can put them together. Yeah, let's
Okay,
talk about them both. Yeah.
okay, but neither are helpful long term.
No, no. I mean, distraction on principle is a great short-term solution. It's a lousy long-term solution. So
Mm,
I'm a big advocate for short-term distractions. I'm a big detractor of long-term distractions.
yeah, love it. Well said. So let's talk about this fixed versus growth mindset, right? You have markets, they get good, they get bad, they get normal, they get whatever, like they're ebbing and flowing, coming and going. And what do you do? Um, the what's the adage? If you're not growing, you're dying. Um, you know, I think there, I'm talking about not getting distracted by all these things in real estate, but on the other hand, how you acquire clients, how you stay in front of clients, how you educate your clients, like all that changes. So I'm not being oblivious to that. So you have to, you can't stay stagnant and keep doing the same thing you did 10 years ago and expect to stay in business or stay in good business.
Well, what you're describing is what worked for me in the 1980s should be good enough to work for me right now, and that's a fixed mindset. So, if we can just back up for a second,
Yeah.
Jared, we'll talk about her when we go full bore on this topic. But the woman who coined these terms is a woman named Carol Dweck, Dweck,
Okay.
and she's the person who crystallized these terms in a book called Mindset. And so she defines two different mindset. One is a fixed mindset, which is what has always worked will always work. Who I am is who I will always be. It's a permanent attribution. Whereas a growth mindset says, boy, things are always open to change, growth, and improvement, and I am a person who is capable of
Mm-hmm.
change, growth, and improvement.
Mm-hmm.
And those two mindsets will either limit you or help you become more than you are.
Mm-hmm.
And she's done a really great job in that book doing that.
Love it. Yeah, that's all good stuff. Well, we were a little over half an hour into it. I think this sets the stage for a really good series, and we'll drill down into each one of those in great detail. So I would encourage our listeners to subscribe so that as these episodes come out, that obviously you'd be made aware of that. But other than that, Dr. Hall, how could folks get in touch with you and learn about your resources?
Yeah, they can get in touch with me. Probably the best way is on my website, drrogerhall.com, drrogerhall.com. On it, you can find out about my consulting services. You can find out about my public speaking. You can also find out about my 3 books that I've already got published, one more on the way. And I've got an online course called Freak Out, Fear Less, Live More. And on it, a way to access those courses or that course is to take the Freak Out quiz, and you can learn your freak out, your anxiety style, and how you worry, how much you worry.
Excellent. Excellent. All right. Well, all good stuff. As always, well, thank you for coming on, chatting through this. I'm super excited about this series and to hear your take on all these in greater detail.
I am delighted and grateful to be invited, Jared, and glad to be part of this progress.
Absolutely. Absolutely. All right. Other than that, we'll wish everybody blessed and we'll see you in the next episode. Take care.